6 Ole Miss Rebels on All SEC coaches preseason teams. We tell you who right after this. This is the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to this extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, at the Stephen Willis down below. Check us out, and thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications and new videos when they go up, and, of course, upvote the video itself. It would make us very happy. Anyway, Ole Miss had 6 players that were on all SEC teams. Nick Broeker and Jonathan Mingo made the second team, as well as Zach Evans. AJ Finley, Jeremy James, and Cedric Johnson on the third team. This is kind of important because I've preached for 6 months about how good this talent profile is on this roster. So why no first teamers? Why so few second teamers? Why third teamers? These are all really good questions, and I will explain them right after this break. I do want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 odds for source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. 6 players from Ole Miss, all SEC preseason team, and some of them actually made the media team as well. Nick Broeker, Jonathan Mingo, Zach Evans, and Jeremy James were on the media all preseason all SEC team. So there are some talented players, and it's important to know. We're going to go on by this all 6 players one by one, and we're going to tell you why you need to pay attention to them and why this is important that they're on this preseason team and getting this accolades, even if other players that might be deserving aren't on this list. Yes, because Ole Miss, like I said, they're a ton of talent. They're a ton of potential, but it's one thing to be talented. It's another thing to be good. And they have to show people that they're good before they'll be recognized as good. So let's start about Nick Broeker. Nick Broeker famously was, criminally underrated by Rivals.com coming out of high school. He was the lowest of the low 3-star. I actually got into an argument with somebody that I knew because, whenever I was there, about what exactly he was and what he brought to the table and why was he ranked that low whenever he was a upper 4-star on ESPN on 247. Why was he so low, a 5.6 3-star on Rivals? And they just basically told me because I said so, and I told him, it's like, you're going to be criminally wrong on this one. I hope you're prepared to take that medicine. And Nick Broeker has really stepped up to the point where he played left tackle for several years. He's going to move over to left guard. He's going to learn that position to develop versatility for the NFL and go play in the league for 12 years. That is what that low 3-star is going to do. They actually, the results actually show how bad they missed this one. But Nick Broeker has a chance to be a long-time player in the NFL. Good offensive lineman. Started out at tackle, moved to guard, and we'll see how it goes. Jonathan Mingo, last year, he had an injury issue. A foot injury kind of derailed his season last year. Everybody sees the massive talent. That's the reason he's getting a look on the second team. But for Jonathan Mingo to take the next step, he needs to make the whole season healthy. If he can do that, that's the important first step. And the second thing will be actually produce. Be the #1 receiver, because there's other candidates on this roster that, if he's not careful, will compete him out of a job. But real interesting to see Jonathan Mingo on the second team. The third team, Zach Evans. hasn't suited up in the SEC one time. They put him on third team because they had to put him somewhere. Unbelievably good player, a very talented guy, and he has a chance to be very, very good. Like I've told you for 6 months, Adrian Peterson level of talent. He is unreal talented. He is the best player on Ole Miss's football team. Almost everybody will say that. And it's important to know that going into this series of game. And if you want to think of what type of offense and how important the quarterback competition really is, remember he's sitting back there. So whoever is going to play quarterback is going to have potentially the best running back backfield of any quarterback since Stuart Patridge, since Romero Miller, Deuce and Joe Gunn, or Deuce and John Avery. Take your pick, because the Ole Miss's backfield hadn't been that stacked since. We also have Jeremy James, who was slated to move from right tackle to left tackle. But I think his name's Jaden Williams, has performed pretty well to the point where nobody really knows the offensive line depth chart, because they're not going to talk about it, but they're just guessing at it. Is it because Mason Brooks had a concussion that Jaden Williams was able to move in on the left side and Jeremy James moved over to the right? Or is it a talent issue because of how well he has performed as a young player? We'll have to wait and see, but either way, Jeremy James is a heck of a tackle. Either right tackle or left tackle, he is potentially the most talented offensive lineman Ole Miss has and will fit pretty seamlessly in whatever we're doing and will play a big role. The good news is, if you notice, I've already mentioned 2 of the 5 offensive linemen and Zach Evans. That's, again, a clue of what the offense will look like. Now we go over to the defensive side of the ball with A.J. Finley, and what he's grown into is quite spectacular. And this year, Cedric Johnson had about now, and he's going to play on that 3-man front and cause a significant bit of havoc. But that is the 6 players that made the All-SEC coaches team for you right there. Anyway, tune in to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast every day, every weekday. We put it out at 7 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Central, where you can just watch it and enjoy it on YouTube. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, and get more on the SEC by making Locked On SEC your second listen. Everyday host Chris Gordy and local experts of Locked On take you across the SEC in 30 minutes. Make Locked On SEC your second listen. Locked On SEC. Anyway, I will see you later. Hope everybody is doing well. And tomorrow, we're going to make a prediction on the quarterback race. We're going to tell you what we're thinking. Anyway, until then, peace.